And now we're going to study Daf Samach Omid Beis, and we're trying to explain the machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia according to Rabbi Yochanan. Here's what Rabbi Yochanan says. Rabbi Yehuda Savar, he understands that the word chukah means makom shemiskapru bo pamachas b'shana. It's a place, a location in the Beis HaMikdash, which is only entered into once a year, achas b'shana. No other day has the avodas in that location, and that means the Kodesh Kadosh. There, the Torah says chukah, and the avodos and the seder avodos are ma'akvos, are critical. Avodos outside that area of the Kodesh Kadoshim, for example, the Heichal and the Azara, even though those avodos are done by the Kohen Gadol when he's wearing Big Day Lavan, and it's Pam Achas B'Shana, nevertheless, there's no din of Chukah Li-Kuva, because Chukah Li-Kuva only applies to a Makom, and the Gemara is going to ask, how does he know such a thing? Shemis Kaprim Bo Pam Achas B'Shana. Rabbi Nechemia Savar, the word Chukah is referring to Dvarim HaMiskaprim Bohem Ham Achas B'Shana. In other words, any avodah, no matter where it's done, whether it's in the Kodesh Kadoshim, the Heichal, the Azara, as long as it's done B'Big Day Lavan, and therefore the Kapara is once a year on Yom Kippurim, the Seder is Miyach. So the Gemara right away jumps on Rabbi Yochanan's explanation of Rabbi Yehuda. Atu l'Rabbi Yehuda makom ksiv. Where does it say anything in the pasuk? It says achas b'shana. How does he know that the achas b'shana is referring to a makom, to the Kodesh Kadoshim? Ella, so now the Gemara reformulates Rabbi Yochanan's explanation of the machlokas between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Nechemia Lahainu. Time of the Rabbi Yehuda ksiv, the pasuk says in Achri Mosva, he says zos lachem lechukasol. The word zos is always a mute, and he's telling you that although chukah indicates that it's ma'akev, but nevertheless only zos. Uksiv, there's another mute in the pasuk. It says achas bashana, and the word achas is always a mute. So we have two miutim that are limiting the scope of the principle of chukah li'akev. Ad l'ma'ute big day lavan mibachutz. According to the Shita Rabbi Yehuda, we have one mute to exclude anything that is chutz. It's outside the Kodesh Kadoshim. It's in the Heichal Azar, even though it requires the levisha of Big Day Lavan. And the mute is now telling me that in all those avodos, the Big Day Lavan bachutz, out of the Kodesh Kadoshim, ein haseder ma'akiv. V'chad, and another mute, lemait Big Day Zav. Now, honestly, I looked around. I did not understand this second mute of Big Day Zav, because you've already excluded any avoda that's outside of the Kodesh Kadoshim, according to Rabbi Yehuda. That's based on the first mute. So what's the havamina that if he does an avoda b'Big Day Zav, which is certainly outside of the Kodesh Kadoshim, that seder would be me'akev? Just 1 second, a thought occurred to me now. If you don't mind, if you have a little patience, just clear my head. I had a thought here. I'm not sure if there's anything to it. We'll take Big Day Love on me bachutz. I have an idea. I'm just going to mention it very quickly with a plitas peh, and I don't know if it's worth anything. But what he means, l'me'ute Big Day Zav, means if he was makdim something in the Kodesh Kadoshim before the avodah Big Day Zav, And we might have thought that since he was makdim an avoda inside the Kodesh Kadoshim, that's going to be ma'akev on an avoda that he uses, that he wears big day zav. So that the ma'akev here, or the gorem, the cause of the problem, is something that he did inside the Kodesh Kadoshim because he was makdim that before the big day zav. I'm just throwing out an idea. In any event, Rav Nechemia, he says chad lemute big day zav. I agree with you, Rabbi Yehuda, that any avoda done by the Kohen Gadol on Yom Kippur and big day zav is not included on the chukah liakev, seder liakev. But chad, the other mute, is not going to be for big day lavon bachutz, because Rabbi Nechemia holds that in big day lavon bachutz seder is ma'akev, but rather to exclude shirayim. Shvicha shirayim de lo ma'ak. Now, the chiddush here in Rabbi Nechemia is that even though shvicha shirayim requires big day lavon, nevertheless it's not ma'ak, which means that according to Rabbi Nechemia, shvicha shirayim is on a lower level of avoda than all the other avodas. It's a mitzvah, but it's not part of the essential critical avodos of Yom Kippur, or for that matter, of any day of the year. Now, the Gemara is now going to give an explanation as to why Rabbi Yehuda found it unacceptable to be mamayit shvichas shirayim. Rabbi Yehuda says the following: Ima akve, if you're going to tell me that any avoda that's done in big day lavon, even bachutz, is ma'akev, is then ma'akve. Why should shvichas shirayim be inferior to any avoda? He doesn't accept Rabbi Nechemia's position that shvichas shirayim is on a lower level of avoda. He sees it as an avoda amongst all the other avodos, and since you would argue, which Rabbi Yehuda rejects, that any avoda in big day lavon is seder is ma'akev chukah, then I would apply that to shirayim as well, shvichas shirayim. But if you're going to go with my shita, that lo ma'akve, seder is not ma'akev in all the avodas, only in the Kodesh Kadoshim, is then lo ma'akve. Then it wouldn't be ma'akev, the seder would not be ma'akev in shvichas shirayim. So why would I need a special miyut to exclude shvichas shirayim? Again, according to Rabbi Nechemia, shvichas shirayim is not an avoda chashuva, which is ma'akev the kaparas hakorban, and therefore it's logical that the pasuk here is coming to be b'mayit that avoda, because it's the kala with a kuf sheba kula. But shara avodas hanasos b'big day lavon, it's irrelevant according to Rabbi Nechemia if they are done bachutz. The seder is ma'akev, and Rabbi Yehuda holds that shvichas shirayim is an avoda chashuva, and it's ma'akev the kapara, and therefore it's not logical to exclude it. We're going to exclude all the avodas for big day lavon if they're not done inside the Kodesh Kadoshim, and yesh beineihem shvichas shirayim. The Gemara now brings a proof that Rabbi Yehuda holds that shvichas shirayim is in fact an avoda chashuva, and it's ma'akev the kapara, and therefore he doesn't want to differentiate between shvichas shirayim and all the other avodos that are done b'big day lavon bachutz. Kedesanya, we learned in the Brisa. The Brisa is talking about the end after you've completed all the azos of the damapar, the damasor. Then it says v'chila mechaper es hakodesh es ol moed v'es hamizbech. This is a redundant pasuk, and we're going to darshan it in the following way: Im kiper, if the Kohen did all the hazos that were mentioned in this entire parsha, is kila, that he was mashlim the kapara, fine. V'im lo kiper, if he hasn't completed all the hazos, lo kila, he hasn't completed the kapara, and he cannot omit even one matana. Divrei Rabbi Akiva, Amalo Rabbi Yehuda, mifnei malo. Why don't you darshan the pasuk kiseder ksivos? V'nomar, we should say him kila if he's messiahim the hazos of the entire seder, as the pasuk, as the parsha formulates it, kiper. But v'im lo kiper, if he didn't do all hazos, lo kiper, which means im chisar achas manan todos klum. Very strange. Rabbi Yehuda is repeating word for word what Rabbi Akiva said. So the Gemara says, quoting a sugya in Masechet Zvachim Nun Beis, my Beinai, what's the difference between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yehuda? Both of them agree that im chitzer afilu achas mi matanos lo hishlim hakapara. The Gemara explains. And there are two explanations of the difference between Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Yehuda. One is that of Rabbi Yochanan, the other is that of Rabbi Shimon Levi. We don't know which one says which, but Chadam are one of these two, either Rabbi Yochanan or Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi. Mashmos darshani kabeinayin. They're only arguing about how to darshan the pasuk. As far as din is concerned, there's no difference. There's no enough communication between the shittas. But for Chadam, according to the other mandir, whether it's Rabbi Yochanan or Rabbi Yeshua ben Levi, Shirayim ma'akve ika beinayu. The difference between the Tanoim here, Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Akiva, is as far as Shvicha Shirayim is concerned. They are Shirayim of the Dama Par and the Dama Soyer. They have to be poured on the Mizbeach HaChitzon on the Yisod, in this case the Yisod Amaravi of the Mizbeach HaChitzon. And according to Rabbi Akiva, Shvicha Shirayim is not Ma'keves. And even if he omitted Shvicha Shirayim completely, it would still be considered a kapara. So he's dashing the pasuk in Kippur, means that if he did azah from the dam, and he completed the ikrei azos, all those are included under kila. Kila means he achieved and completed the kapara. And the Torah is telling you that even if he wasn't shofech shirayim on the Yisod Mizbeach, he still has achieved the kapara. Whereas Rabbi Yehuda holds that shvicha shirayim is ma'keves, and he's going to dash an imkila, means he completed all the matanos, including shvichas davim liyisod, then kippur, because the clincher of the kapara and the final avoda is going to be the shvichas shirayim. So in any event, we see clearly from this brisa that according to Rabbi Yehuda, shvichas shirayim is an avoda chashuva. It's ma'keves kapara. And Shirayim Ma'akve Ika Beinayu, according to the Shita. We're not going to differentiate, according to Rabbi Yehuda, between Shvicha Shirayim and all the other avodos that are done and performed with Big Day Lavan. And therefore, we need a pasuk to be mamayit all the avodos that are done with Big Day Lavan bachutz, that Seder is not ma'akev. And as we said before, the second miyut, according to Rabbi Yehuda, is for Big Day Zah. Now, we have said that according to Rabbi Yochanan, in explaining the Shita of Nehemiah, the pasuk is not being memayit, it's not excluding, as far as Chukah and Seder, Likuva, the avodos that are done in Big Day Love and Bachutz, only Shvicha Shirayim, which is not Ma'akev the Kapara. So the Gemara asks, Mi Amar Rabbi Yochanan Hachi, is this in fact Rabbi Yochanan's position, that his opinion is that according to Rabbi Nechemia, Shvicha Shirayim is not Ma'akev? For Amar Rabbi Yochanan, we have another state of Rabbi Yochanan, Tana, Rabbi Nechemia, the name of Rabbi Nechemia, he presents the sheet of Rabbi Nechemia, and this is the Gemara in Zvachim Kuf Yud Aleph, that Shofech HaShiraya Adam Michutz LaMigdash Chayev Kares, Kid Divrei Omer Shirayim Ma'akve, that Shirayim, Shvicha Shirayim Ma'keves HaKapara, it's considered avodah. Therefore, if he does it michutz, outside the confines of the Beis Hamikdash, then the din is that he's chayav kares, because any avodah that was implemented b'chutz, that's called kodesh b'chutz, generates a chayav kares. Kasha. The Gemara says we cannot reconcile these two statements of Rabbi Yochanan. What exactly is Rabbi Yochanan's position in interpreting Rabbi Nechemia with regard to the issue as to whether or not Shvicha Shirayim is Ma'keves HaKapara or Eina Ma'keves HaKapara? We have two different statements that are mutually exclusive. Now the Gemara goes on to talk about a different facet of changing the Seder Havodah of Yom Kippur. Rab Chanina, Ktores Shechafana Kodem Shchitaso Shel Par. In other words, the Kohen took Melo Chafna for the purpose of Aktoras Aktoras before he shechted the par. Rav Chanina says, lo osav lo klum, which means that he has to do another chafina after the shchitas hapar, because shchitas hapar comes before chafinas haktoras, and it's ma'akev leposla. So the Gemara analyzes this shita of Rabbi Chanina, l'kiman, in this position that shchitas hapar is the avoda in the seder that's ma'akev in the chafina of the ktores, is the loka Rabbi Yehuda. This shita Rabbi Chanina cannot be reconciled with that of Rabbi Yehuda. Why? The Rabbi Yehuda Omar, Rabbi Yehuda is of the opinion that ki ksiva, when the Torah says chukah, it's bidvar manasim b'gdei lov b'fnim. It's only the avoda inside the kodesh kadashim of the ksiva. Shchitas hapar, even if it's done b'bigdei lovad, but it's done chutz lazara. Correct? Let's just go over that one more time. The shchita of the par, is done b'bigdei lovad b'chutz. And therefore it's not included on the chuvka likuva. So why should the hakdama, when he was magdim the chafina before the shchitas hapar, why would the shchitas hapar have the status, the import of being ma'akev in chafinas haktoras and passing the chafina, such that he has to redo the chafina? We're talking about an avoda of shchitas hapar b'chutz in the azara. So Gemara explains, Hafilu Tamer Rabbi Yehuda. I can reconcile this statement of Rabbi Chanina with that the sheet of Rabbi Yehuda with a new principle. The Gemara now formulates a brand new principle. Tzorech pnim kipnim dami. Any avoda that's done b'chutz, but it's done for the purpose of an avodas pnim, that's considered upgraded to the status of an avoda nasis b'fnim. Shchitas hapar in the azor is done for the purpose of azos dam b'kodesh hakadoshim, and Rabbi Yehuda therefore will concede that the din of avodas pnim would apply even though he's doing it b'chutz, and therefore chukah ma'akev the seder is ma'akev. Why? Because we're going to upgrade the status of shchitas hapar to that of an avodas pnim, because it's l'tzorech avodas pnim. But the Gemara now says, let's look at our Mishnah. This Mishnah that we're learning now seems to contradict Rabbi Chanina. The Mishnah says, Imad shelo gomar matanos shebifnim nishpach adam. If he did not complete the matanos adam inside the Kodesh Kadoshim, and the dam, let's say the par was nishpach, it fell and was spilled on the ground. Yavi dam acher, he's got to sheft another par to replace this par, v'yachzor, so they can now go back, v'yazer, batchila, b'bifnim, v'im isa. If we're going to accept the din of Rabbi Chanina, that ktores, shechofna, kodem, shchitasa, shel par, losav lo klum, is therefore, it should not be sufficient that he goes back and does a shchitas hapar in order to do the azos dam mitchila, but rather yachzor the yachvon miboile. According to Rabbi Chanina, there's a chunk here that's missing in the Mishnah. The Mishnah should have said that if nishbach adam and he hadn't finished the matanos b'fnim in the Kodesh Kadoshim, then not only yavi dam acher, but he needs a new chafina of the ktores. Yachzor v'yachpon b'boile. Because he needs to do the chafina after the shchitas hapar. And now he needs a new shchitas hapar because the dam of the par was nishpach before he completed nazos. So if he's going to have to replace the original shchita of the par with a second shchita of the par, then he's going to have to redo the chafinas haktoras according to Rav Chanina. And now we turn to Daf Samach Aleph, Omid Aleph, and the Gemara answers, "B'ktoras lo kamairi." You're right. You're 100% right. There's no question about it. If there was shfichas hadam al ritzba in the middle of the matanos bifnim, he hadn't completed the matanos azos mi bifnim, and the dam is gone. He's going to have to shecht the par again in order to start that azos from scratch, and he would also require chafina again. But the Mishnah, the Ketores lo kamari. The Mishnah is not talking about the dinim of the Ketores. The Mishnah is focused single-mindedly on the dinim of the hazos, and enochinami. As far as hazos, he needs a new shechita the par, and the mele he needs, according to Rav Chanina, a replacement of the chafinas haktoris. That's just not mentioned in the Mishnah because that's not the subject that's being addressed by this Mishnah. Okay, then, so here's where we're going to stop today on the top of Samach Aleph, Omid Aleph. And the Mirza Hashem tomorrow, we'll pick it up with Omar Ul. Have a great day.